What's up, everybody, and welcome back. It was just 1 week ago where I told you I'd be sitting here a week later, either telling you about a great day or recapping a lot of things that I learned out there that I'm going to put forward in the future. Thankfully, it was a good day. We became an Ironman on Sunday, September 26th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was an interesting trip. I learned so much about myself and just Ironman racing in general and the whole sport. And we're just going to recap it here a little bit on what happened in the last week. You heard about the journey leading up to that point. I'll put a link to that video down below if you're just catching in now on this video, on the almost 4.5 year journey on getting here. But let's just do a little recap real quick. This full Ironman was a Team Blueline team race. There was 8 athletes from Team Blueline participating in this race. 4 of us were participating that day to become an Ironman for the first time. This is a nationwide team that part of Team Blueline is the racing team to raise money for Team Blueline, which is a nonprofit organization which raises money to help fallen and injured officers and their families with any special needs that they may have. I've met some of these people online. I've talked to them. I've never really met them in person. This was the first time this group of people came together. I was able to meet the founder of Team Blueline, Chad Wallace, finally, after what felt like the last 2 years, getting to know him, via online, Facebook, and different types of things like that. So we all came together at that race. To get down there, we left last week right after that video. We took a 2-day trip to get down there with the kids, the family, parents came down. We did a 2-day trip to get down there, stayed in Virginia overnight. We're from New York, so it was a 12 to 14 hour trip. So we broke it up about 6 to 7 hours each day. Got down there on Wednesday, arrived at our place that we rented, which was just south of race start. It was probably about 15 minutes or so from race start, 15 to 20 minutes on the highway. Wasn't sure how it would be with traffic and stuff race morning. The place we stayed at, we found online. It's called Deer Ridge Retreat. Written blog that I'll have about this race. I'll put the link and everything there. I'll throw some pictures in. It was a great place for the family. Plenty of room. It slept 6 people. Was on a nice piece of property off of a nice mountain road. It was great for the kids. It was just a great accommodation altogether. The place was gorgeous. It was beautiful inside. It just gave you that nice country feel and made you kind of feel like you were in Tennessee. So all was good on that end. Knew we were going to be comfortable for the week. We didn't have anything to worry about. Plenty of room. So Wednesday we arrived in Tennessee. It was a little later into the day, around 4 or 5 o'clock. We had to get some grocery shopping done for the house and the rental since we're going to make some of our food throughout the week. And thankfully, they wanted to go shopping at Publix, which was on the north side of the river down in Chattanooga in the city, which actually happened to be down the block from part of the run course. So this would have been part of my run course preview. Everybody talks about on the run in Chattanooga is Barton Avenue, up a hill on the second half of each loop. It's a 2-loop run course, and the hardest part of it is the second half of each loop. It's up Barton Avenue. It's a very hilly section. The run course itself has about 1,200 feet of elevation. This is one of the things that I read about online that definitely cripples a lot of people on the course out there. A lot of hills. It's late on the first loop. You hit it at the end of the marathon, towards the end of the race, and it just kind of just brings people down to a really slow walk getting them back into the finish line, especially for first timers that are doing this. So I wanted to check out this section. I've read about it online. I saw some pictures, some video. So that night we went out for a 6-mile shakeout run just from being in the car for 2 days. We went up around Barton. Hilly, yes. Too many hills? It depends. It depends how your training was. Thankfully, my training brought me to a lot of hills knowing I was doing this race. I had a bunch of key run sessions with longer runs, shorter runs, and some interval hill work. Thank you to all the people that joined in on those workouts because it definitely paid dividends on race day, which you'll see. So we got that done. I was able to see that part of the run course. The rest of the course is kind of flat and through the city on some of the highway. So I was able to see at least the hillier part of the course on a Recon that day. Thursday morning, brought a Recon bike ride. The bike course is 116 miles, 4 miles more than the typical Ironman. It's 11 miles out from transition to a 2-loop 47 miles for each loop, and then 11 miles back in town, giving you the 116 miles. The 11 miles out from town isn't too bad. Some of it goes through the town and then out onto the highway. And then the 47-mile loop, which is done twice, the southbound portion is, they want to say, the more hillier side of the bike course. It is a pretty hilly bike course, 4,700 feet of elevation total. A lot of that is seen on that first southbound side, about 20 miles. So that's what I rode that day. My father dropped me off at the Dollar General, which is the beginning of that loop, headed down to the turnaround to come back up on the other side, and was picked up at that 20-mile marker. We drove the other side back. And I must say, the course, after driving it, I was pretty humbled. The elevation chart for the course is pretty deceiving. It doesn't look that bad, although 4,700 feet, if you look at the actual number, it is pretty hilly. It's just basically relentless rolling hills. There really isn't many flat spots at all to just get a groove. And the hills just keep on coming. A lot of rollers, some punchy climbs, some things where you really had to get out of the saddle, especially on the second loop, and kind of muscle over it. It definitely can take a lot out of you if you're not pacing properly on that bike or prepared for that course or had really reconned that course, knowing how many hills there really are throughout the entire bike course. You can easily burn a lot of your matches before that run, which I was very aware of going into race day. I had a specific pacing plan, which we'll talk about in a minute. And going into Friday, I was hoping to get a swim in after check-in. Swim is a 2.4 mile downriver swim. They bus you up in the morning to the swim start. Leading up to that, going down there, there was a week of heavy rain down in Tennessee up until the day we arrived. That also transitioned into some cooler weather. This race is typically a wetsuit optional, meaning that the temperature is usually above that 76.1 degree threshold or whatever it is. And athletes can have the option of wearing a wetsuit up until a certain degree, but they will have to start at the back of the swim field, and also as well won't get any age group awards or anything like that, if that means anything to you. Going into this, it was cool weather when we arrived there. It dried up on Wednesday. There was no more rain. And some of the lows at night wound up dipping down into that 49, 50 degree area, and then it was only 70 degrees during the day. Typically, when this race is run, it's pretty hot still this week. I was anticipating a very hot wetsuit optional swim and very hot weather. I did a lot of training and running during the day to get that heat acclimation up, especially after 2019 when they said how hot it was at this race. And the heat can be crippling if you're not used to it. Friday, we had gotten word that the swim was in limbo. The E. coli levels in the water, because of all the rain, tested a little too high. So there was some rumors swirling around, but finally Saturday, or I believe it was Friday night, they posted that the temperature was good. It was actually 74 and change. It was going to be a wetsuit legal race for the age groupers, and that the swim was definitely on. They got a test back when the bacteria levels were below threshold, and we were having ourselves a swim. It was pretty funny because for a couple hours there, for the four of us on the team that were doing this for the first time, we're like, are you an Ironman if you don't do the swim and the swim gets canceled? Because it happens to a lot of people. But the funny thing about Chattanooga, which somebody mentioned, which kind of let this roll off my back at that point, was since it is 144.6 miles, if they cancel the 2.4 mile swim, you still did more distance than a 140.6 typical Ironman distance. So it was pretty funny just to hear that. So it kind of made us, it is what it is at this point. There's nothing that you can't control whether that swim is going to happen or not. So it is what it is. So Friday was the day of check-in. We were supposed to swim after, which never happened. Most of the team checked in together, finally got to meet each other. We went out to lunch, finally met Chad, the founder of the team, everybody, some of the supporters that were there as well. Got to know each other, had a great time at lunch, filled the bellies up, carved up a little bit, and kind of got ready for that last real big sleep. Friday night before a Sunday race, to me, is the most important night of sleep. At least you try to, because the night before, it just doesn't really happen. Your anxiety and just your nervousness and everything like that is just kind of going through the roof. Kids were holding out pretty good here. We signed them up for an Iron Kids race on Saturday morning, so we had that to get up for at about 9 o'clock. Headed down there. They were a little reluctant, one of them, to sign up for it, but we signed them up anyway. But once we got there in the morning, they perked up. The atmosphere was starting to really amp up down there in Ironman Village. and they had a blast. They really got out there, and I think they really felt the energy. I took a bunch of video and stuff like that. I actually might make their own little video and race recap for them, just because they had so much fun about it. They got medals, finisher t-shirts. It was an awesome event. So that was great. Kind of just gave the family a nice something to do Saturday morning. And then I shuttled myself away back to the house. Family went out and did a few things. I made sure I checked all my bags. The one thing I had to get used to about this race is the clean transition area for Ironman racing. I'm used to 70.3 and short distance triathlons where all your transition stuff is by your bike. But ahead of time here, you have to pack your bike gear in a separate bag, your run gear in a separate bag. You'll get a special needs bag halfway through your bike and halfway through your run, a different bag. And then your swim bag in the morning, which is going to have everything you basically need and you'll want back after the race. So I had packed all that stuff before I left. I double checked it back at the rental that we had and double and triple checked it before you drop your bags off on Saturday with your bike. It's kind of weird to go the night before, your bike's there, now all your gear is there, and basically all you have left is what you're wearing in the morning and your wetsuit to go to the swim start. So the atmosphere was great. Ironman Village was fantastic. Meeting the team was great. Problem with all that is you're having fun and time starts flying by. You're trying to stay in the moment. And before you know it, just race day is approaching. Going into this, it was supposed to be an easier swim. It's a downriver swim. You never know what the current is, so I didn't anticipate, having a strong current. They do shut down the dam upstream a little bit in the morning, so it does slow the current down. Probably have a swim anywhere in about an hour 20 for the full Ironman. Double my best half Iron swim. Bike training, this year was the first time before this year was 74 miles was the longest bike ride that I had. A couple years ago, a nice leisurely ride because I really didn't have to train any longer than that. So I did get some 80-mile rides in, 100-mile ride. The longer rides were mostly flat. I did go to some special areas and do some mid-distance rides with some hills and some climbs. So I felt decently prepared on the bike, not overly prepared, so I really had to pace myself to save for the run. But the run training that I've had this year, leading up beginning of the year with a bunch of trail runs, 20-mile trail runs, preparing for a 50K trail run, that 31 miles early in the year in April, continuing then right into Ironman training and being diligent with 80-20 principles of running. I made a whole video on that. If you want, check it out. It definitely helped me big time. 80% of my runs were at very low aerobic heart rate, and 20% of my runs were hard intervals, hard hill runs, as well as on some of the longer runs, hitting those hills as well. Thank you to everybody that suffered on those hills because it definitely paid out big time. All right, race ambitions. I've been planning this out. You know I'm a planner. What's the goal out there? It's Ironman Day, first Ironman. You want to finish. Without a doubt, I just had to hold it together enough, regardless of what happens or what the circumstances are, course conditions, 100 degrees, raining, whatever, become an Ironman. You put so much work in, so much time in, so much sacrifice in. I'm going to make a whole nother video about that on how I was able to train for 20 weeks diligently for this. But my long stretch goal, which I always have a couple goals, was finish the race, yes, but if I can go under 12 hours, that would just be fantastic for myself and the training efforts that I feel I put in. My goal on how to get there was an hour 20 on the swim, 10 minutes in transition, a 6-hour bike, that's including the special needs stop, another 10-minute transition, and then I believe I would have had 4 hours and 20 minutes to complete the marathon to get under 12 hours. And anything you save going up into that run is just more money in the bank you have to get to that 12-hour window if you're a little bit ahead of schedule. But that was my pacing plan. I had my nutrition laid out, everything I wanted to take throughout the day. I knew that had to be very important. I had to stay on point with that. You have to stay fueled. You're going to be out there a very long time. And then we had it. Next thing you know, it's Sunday morning. We're waking up. Transition opens at 4:30. We head down there. Really just got to put my nutrition on my bike, put my bike computer on, just get the odds and ends set to my bike, pump the tires up. There was a few people I heard where the tires popped the night before. Again, my little tip that I always have is pump your tires up the morning of. I am superstitious. I like to use my pump because I specifically use a certain amount of tire pressure each time. So I just wanted to take that factor out of it. And then they're going to bus us upstream. My wife came down with me that morning to transition, put me on the bus, sent me upriver. About 5 o'clock we got there, and it's basically just a long sitting wait. Age group doesn't start till 7:30. There was a pro field that day that just started right before us. So next thing you know, you're down in the dark along a river walk path with about 2,500 other people just sitting there waiting and questioning your life decisions on, did you prepare enough? Why am I here? All these doubts. You can just tell the faces of people. There was so many different emotions going on. I kind of was pacing a little bit. I really couldn't just sit. Some people were sleeping, sprawled out on a towel. But it felt like the longest hour, but the quickest hour and a half of my life. Next thing you know, the sun started coming up. The pro athletes were warming up. They were getting ready to go in the water. The wetsuit went on. Everybody kind of got really close together as ready to go into the swim start, into their seated positions based on time. It's a makeshift dock they put up for that day to get in the water. So it's this big winding path. They stand in 2 or 3 people at a time once you're ready to go every 2 seconds. And it felt like forever. The line wasn't moving. And then all of a sudden, it's you. It's your turn. You're walking down that dock. You're ready to go. And they just say, you're up, have fun. And next thing you know, you're jumping feet first into the Tennessee River. And what you have in store for you the rest of the day is what it is at this point. You just got to roll with the punches. Into the water for the swim, left or right of the buoys, you just got to follow them downstream. You really can't get lost. I did feel a current once I got out to the middle of the river. It wasn't anything astronomical, but it definitely was there. The buoys kept passing by on my left side. The first half just went smooth. Yellow buoys turned to orange buoys. You're halfway there. You have to go left of an island and under 3 bridges, make 1 left turn, and you're out of the water. I got that island in sight, and it felt like it never just got closer. Finally, the island came. Finally, the orange buoys came. First bridge, second bridge, third bridge, and then that red turn buoy. You see everybody lined up on the shore, just waiting for people to come in. You start hearing the bells, the whistles, people cheering, and all of a sudden you just went from just having a swim to getting out of the water, and it's go time. The swim for me is my weakest of the 3 disciplines. So once I'm done with my swim, I keep myself in that moment and just get through it, as best I can. After that, I know it's go time. Out of the water, the volunteers are great, lift you up the stairs, go up a little ramp at the transition, and this is all new to me. You get out, the bags are all lined up for your bike stuff. You have to grab your bag. The volunteer will give it to you based on number. You go into the changing tent, get all your stuff, put your helmet on, shoes on. Make sure I took my time because you don't want to forget anything, or you just want to be ready because you're going to be out on this bike, what I was expecting, for 6 hours, and you don't have any access to anything for another 2.5 hours as far as, for your special needs. You'll have whatever you brought on the bike, but it's just, you don't really have, this is what you have in that bag is yours, and it's going to be a while. So I made sure, took my time, think I had everything, got out on the bike, 11 miles out to that loop. It was a very congested bike. A lot of people came out of the water at that time. I kind of over pushed to get around people because of just, you don't want to get caught drafting or blocking people. So if you're going to pass somebody, you have to pass them. And for me, I'm a decent biker. So I have a lot of catching up to do against the good swimmers, and just piggyback one after another. It kind of burnt my legs out by the time I got to mile 20 or 30. I actually started feeling some cramping in, my calves and my leg. And it was just, I had to take a few deep breaths, really start settling in at this point, making sure my nutrition was on point. I anticipated taking, 1 bottle of Infinite every hour. Started taking some salt, had a few granola bars. Everything I had was going well into the halfway point. It is a long bike ride. Definitely a long bike ride. Around mile 45, I knew I had about 10 miles left till special needs. I was basically where I needed to be as far as taking in fluid and nutrition and everything like that. And all I wanted to do is go to the bathroom, take a pee in a normal bathroom. So I figure, hey, 10 more miles, perfect. Get into town. It's a little quaint town where the special needs stuff is. Great. Came in, off the bike, volunteer gave me my bag, put the powders back in my bottles to refill my 3 bottles for the second half of the bike, and there's no water at this stop. So I know I'm going to have to stop at the next aid stop about 5 or 10 miles down the road, again, to fill these bottles with water. Go through my bag. I think I got everything. I said, all right, well, let me go see if I can hit this porta potty real quick. Well, there's only 2 of them. So there was 4 or 5, 6 people waiting. You don't know what they need to do in there, so you're waiting. Kind of spent like 4 or 5 minutes just sitting there, but it was a great mental time to just take it all in, take a break. My pacing was on point for the bike so far. A couple more minutes than I wanted to in special needs, but that's fine. I mean, you need that time sometimes. But really cool was, while on that line real quick, just waiting, I was next to get in, you hear a bunch of cheers, motorcycle, and here comes Sam Long on his bike, flying by, one of the professionals out front, and just really cool to see when I watch them on TV, being able to see them go by as they're being filmed on TV, with the guy on the motorcycle with the camera following right behind him. And man, these guys were flying. So they're already finishing their second loop of the bike as we're about to get on to the second loop. That just sent me, like, adrenaline went through the roof there. I was like, this is great. Like, finally, just those little things throughout the day that keep you in the moment. Got back right on the bike, got out there, and what happens next? Lionel Sanders comes flying by on the left side. Just to see him for like 10, 20 seconds going up this little hilly section out of town, and being able to see him for that 2-minute window, with the camera guy following him and everything like that. It was just one of those moments where you're like, I'm out here doing this. This is a special day. This is stuff you watch and have been watching for a long time, preparing for this, like just being out here in this environment. Pros are doing their thing. They're headed back to town, and second loop now with a bike. Was able to settle down a little bit on the second loop. I felt a little better. I was making sure I was taking in all my fluids. It definitely spread out a little bit on the bike course, so I was able to not have to be in and out of people or powering around people because of the passing rules. Was able to meet a few people out there. A few people commented on the Team Blueline kit, asked if I was a police officer, told me where they were from. Some of them were as well. So it was good to kill some of the miles that way out there on the bike course as well. Coming around the second time now, we're headed up the north side of the second loop, headed back to that 11-mile pass, which is supposed to go back into town. I started to see some of the Team Blueline people I was racing with out there. Caught up with 1 or 2 of them. Found out, unfortunately, that one of them was not having the greatest day. He lost his timing chip in the swim. 2 flat tires on the bike, I believe on the first and part of the second loop. Just made me take a deep breath and go, all right, even though it's, this is a long day, be grateful that it's going the way it is, that you're here, you're moving forward, you feel pretty good, and let's just get back into town. Let's finish this bike. Hopefully everything stays together and we'll be good. Back into town, 11 miles, wasn't too bad. It's kind of a small up and then kind of downhill into town. 45 minutes before that, was doing the math in my head with that aid stop, and kind of figured if I held steady at where I was at that point, I should be able to just squeak in under a 6-hour bike split. That's just in my head. I knew I can hold that. I knew it's just something to shoot for. It's just something to push a little bit for. Made it with a bike split of 5:58. Under 6 hours, perfect. My swim, which I originally told you earlier, was I had planned in my pacing for an hour 20. Wound up being a 1:04. The current was there. It felt good. So that there put about 15 minutes in the bank for my goal time. As well, transition was a couple minutes faster originally than the 10 minutes. I do the math kind of if I have a pacing plan as I'm going, see how much I have, see what's going on. The second transition now from the bike, again, you get your run bag, really thoroughly went through it, made sure I was prepared for the run, took everything I needed. Went to the bathroom again real quick just to get that out of the way, and took a deep breath. I felt pretty good actually as I stepped off the bike and was getting to my bag. I didn't really have any big major cramps in my legs. Let's give it a whirl. I'm looking at my watch. We were at about 7:15 total time. which I thought it was actually frozen on the transition time, because I was looking at it and it wasn't moving, but the screen had changed. And I realized, oh, that's the total event time. So I knew I had put some time in the bank to get under that 12 hours, and did the math real quick, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 hours, 45 minutes. Okay, I have about 4 hours and 40 minutes to get this run done, including the special needs stop, whatever I need. And then in my head, I'll figure out, all right, what pace is that? That's a 10 and change or 10:45 pace, whatever it is. When I calculated, I said, I just got to stay that average below if I feel good on the run. Because goal number one is you just got to finish the race. Don't let the wheels come off if you're going down a dark road. Got out on the run, came out of transition, uphill. I knew I was going to be seeing the Team Blueline tent up on the hot corner of the run by the end of the bridge. I was going to pass it twice. The energy was electric up there. It was getting nice and warm out. Everybody was out there. Saw Chad with the flag. People were loving it. It just gave me that encouragement to head out there for that first part of the run. How I broke the run down was, if I feel good, give me a solid half marathon. Get out there, pace yourself, look at your heart rate, keep it low, that aerobic training you've been doing, and try and get that first half marathon done. Felt good. The miles started taking off. Made sure I hit the aid stations well, slowed down, stopped, walked for most of them. Take that water, take that Gatorade, whatever you need. I brought a handheld bottle with me that I was originally going to keep maybe Gatorade in, but it started getting warm out, so I decided to just keep water in there. And as needed, every quarter mile, just squirt water on my head and just keep the body cool. I knew heat was going to be a big factor. And as the run was going on, I was getting a little warmer out. And after a few aid stations, a few miles in, I started with the ice, down the front, down the back, just keeping that core temperature cool. That was part of the race strategy that I had that day, and kept going. Getting towards the end of that first half marathon, I told myself, we'll reassess how we feel after this. We'll see where we're at pace-wise, time-wise. We'll work on the next 10K, and then we'll break it into 2 5Ks, and then you're there. You got 1 mile to go at the end. Felt good. Worked into that 10K after the half marathon. Continued the pacing plan. Felt good. Started, obviously, getting sore, but made sure I kept fueling, made sure I was walking those aid stops, make sure. That second half of the run, I definitely started drinking a lot of the Coke. The Gatorade just didn't sit with me very well at that point. It was just enough sugary, bland sports drinks for the day. And I started basically going water, soda at every aid stop. And a couple half bananas along the way. Keeping myself cool, that was the main thing, and keep moving forward. As soon as that aid stop's done, walk a few more feet, take a deep breath, and get moving again. Got to the last 2 5Ks. That 20-mile mark, that's the wall. That's when it's time to keep going. I started doing the math in my head again, and I was putting a lot of time in the bank on the first half of the run. And I knew to myself, if I can get through this first of the last 2 5Ks at just holding steady, even if the wheels come crumbling off on that second 5K, that I'd still be able to get under that 12-hour mark. I can kind of shovel myself along the way. The last couple miles, unfortunately, you hit that Barton Avenue section again for the second time, and it was crippling, people. It literally was. I got through the northern part of it. Coming back, downhill was easy. I hit that last aid station before going back up the hill one last time. I knew I had time, so I said, you know what, if we have to, we're going to walk this hill. That's fine. Started walking it, got halfway up the hill. I saw the crest of that hill. The energy was electric up there. And I just said, you're like 2.5 miles away, man. This is not the time to, let's finish this. So 1 foot in front of the other, I got motoring again, got to the top of that hill. And then basically once you hit the top of that hill, it's a long sweeping downhill under an overpass into the city, and you make a left turn across the pedestrian bridge, a little incline getting over the bridge. But then after that, 2 left turns downhill and you're home. There's 1 mile basic stretch at that point. Just that feeling at that 1 mile mark left to go and still feeling decent, just pumped me up. I had the flag towed away from my special needs bag, my Blueline flag. That came out at the beginning of the pedestrian bridge. Kind of started flying at tons of people on the bridge. They really appreciated it. Definitely got some nice words on the bridge, some encouragement. Knew I was going to see the team tent again on that left turn, headed down to the hill to the finish line. Electric. Definitely a lot of emotion at that point. Seeing everybody and kind of why we were out there that day and the reasons why we were, just made it all come together. Last downhill ends by the river. As soon as you finish that left turn down to the hill, it's the finish line. And you see the lights, you see the carpet, you see the people. It just pumps you up. I wound up running besides the first mile of the run, my second best mile of the day was mile 26 of that marathon, is because it was just electric. Coming down there, pumped up. I mean, you could just tell it all the emotions came together at that point. I remember a few people told me, slow down, just take it all in. And, I did, took a couple steps short. I saw the time, even for the total event time, was under 12 hours. I knew I was going to be well below that. I knew it all came together. There were so many reasons for it to come together that day, and I thank every one of you that made the training possible, those early mornings, those hard sessions. When I said, let's go run hills, you said yes. When we did the intervals on the hills, you said yes. And we pushed each other. We saw each other for the different races we had going on this year and pushed each other. And you can't take those memories away. For all the people that donated to the fundraising link that I have going this year for Team Blueline, thank you. This was all for you. There was just so many reasons to make it all come together that it was almost hard not for it to come together. Everything worked out perfect that day. It's going to be a day that definitely, I'll remember for the rest of my life. The family being there, the people from the team being there, Team Blueline, so supportive. It's just amazing. There's a quote I want to read real quick, which I've always, posted with my race photo finishes on my 70.3s and some other people's finisher photos. It's by Brian Rose from London Real, from the Ironman movie, which is just an incredible motivational movie. And I'll read it real quick. The instant you reach your goal, that beautiful emptiness, that Zen moment of no desires, a fleeting few seconds of peace after months of suffering. That just sums it up. That was the pinnacle of 20 dedicated weeks of training, tons of sacrifice. 20 weeks specifically. When I was at the rental before the race, I added up through Garmin all the hours of swimming, biking, running, and mileage that went into the training over the 20 weeks. It's pretty substantial. You realize how much time you spent away from home, your family, your kids, and what else you could be doing with your life at that point. But you chose to do this, and we executed the training. And there's a few things that I learned over this 4.5-year journey, and that certain principles apply. You need a dream, which starts up here. You need a goal on how to get there. That's what I put on my board. You need a roadmap on how to get there. That's the work we put in, week after week. But you need the discipline. You need to show up. You need to do your workouts. If you're going to do something, make sure you're ready for it. Make sure you talk to your family. If you have a family, make sure that they're ready for it. And make sure you can put the time into it. And you'll have a great day out there. I mean, those are my basic principles, and if I can't commit to something and fully go after it, then, it'll have to wait. So remember, gratitude equals attitude. We did it. We stuck around after. Watched the rest of the team come in. It was great watching everybody. We were able to get nice and close to the finish line at the end, bring some of the last bits of the teammates home. All 8 of us finished the race. 4 of us became Ironman for the first time. It was just great to witness that, to see that, and just feel the energy. It really was a special trip with a lot of meaning behind it. So I'm glad you came along for the journey. This might be a little long, but it's something I'm gonna watch probably, you know, in the future when I need to relive the day. Hope it motivates some of you. I hope it definitely opened your eyes on, you know, how much leads up to this day and really what the whole day entails. But again, thank you to everybody who reached out before, after the race, the ones that I trained with, the ones that have just been so supportive and positive. You really just need to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, positive thinking, forward thinking, have dreams, have goals, and you can accomplish anything. It really is. Anything is possible. It really is. And that's it. We'll catch you on the next one. There's so much coming now. We're gonna have some more time. We got New York City Marathon in about 6 weeks. Have to run that. And then it's off season. We're gonna think about 2022. What's in store for that? I have a lot of things up in my head, so I'll be reaching out to some of you and seeing what you think, and we'll go from there. Have at it. Just remember, it's all about balance, balancing that life 1 mile at a time. Whether you're on the course or off the course, just remember, keep those feet moving forward. Everybody have a great marathon season that are running marathons, everybody who's still in their multi-sport season, and get after it. We'll see you out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, and balance that life 1 mile at a time.
Baby. We out here all day. We don't leave anyone behind. We don't leave anyone on the course. We're here until the last blue gets across. Rep the blue.